So we find ourselves discussing a very peculiar case. It's almost like this one was out of a Netflix drama series. And I'll go into some of the small details. Of course, Martin George, he joins me on the Zoom line to really elaborate and give us a greater understanding. So it involves firearms dealer Brent Thomas, who was first arrested on September 29th, 2022. Then he was released. Then he was rearrested in Barbados on his way to Miami to check, I guess, do his routine medical checkup. Now, it's alleged, and this is from one of our dailies, other dailies, it's alleged in an article that he was forcibly returned to Trinidad and Tobago on a Trinidad and Tobago, hear this, Defense Force plane. I didn't stutter, let me repeat. It's alleged he was forcibly returned to Trinidad on a Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force plane, and he was later charged with possession of serious weapons, including grenades and rifles. What a development here, Martin. Am I spot on, or am I missing any part out of this plot? And where do we go from that particular happening back in 2022 into this now calendar 2023? And as always, great to see you.
Yes, hi, good morning to you, Jason, and good morning to your viewers on CNC3. Jason, the thing is, it's a really bizarre set of circumstances from what one can see reported in the newspaper and, of course, from the judgment of the Honorable Justice Rampersad. My only caveat this morning is that we would need to ring-fence our discussion, because from the press conference I saw that the Minister of National Security gave yesterday, he indicated that the matter is going to be appealed. So in those circumstances, we would have to tread very carefully around the issue, to ensure that, we maintain that integrity in terms of the respect for the jurisdiction of the court that is probably going to be dealing with the appeal.
Let me ask you, does appealing the matter even make sense in a sense, it's almost like Mr. Thomas would have had his day, and I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, obviously we can't go into all the intimate details, as you rightfully said, it's before the judicial system in terms of this appeal, but this appeal, as it were, does it hold any ground, and where do we go from here concerning this very, I would say, peculiar case, very interesting case?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, of course, there may be merits to an appeal, and of course, there may be demerits to the appeal. It would really depend upon all the details in the judgment and what the exact facts of the matter were. This may not be as fruitless or as specious and speculative as some other appeals we've seen lodged in some other matters. I mean, we're not going to make any reference to any missing files or anything of the sort.
But Martin, the reality is with these appeals and with it still before the court is taxpayers' money jumping up, as they say in the old mass.
That is the unfortunate reality. And, we do not have in Trinidad and Tobago any system where any public officials are held responsible for any, of these wanton and excessive expenditures. In fact, over the weekend, I think some figures came out in terms of, fees that are likely to be paid in relation to the two esteemed gentlemen whom the Attorney General's office had retained in that very missing files matter, but I mean, the reality is that we in Trinidad and Tobago have not established any system of accountability in that regard, and we have had, profligate spending by the Attorney General's office over the years and over several, jurisdictions and over several, administrations that really cannot be properly accounted for or explained, and maybe that is something that we need to look at in the circumstances, as a way forward for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, and I believe that is the bigger issue. Yes, these cases will go before the system and a judgment will be made, and clearly there'll be an appeal as it pertains to this one. I'm watching even with the PCA investigation that's now going to be open. I wonder if more resources will go into that particular development.
Yes,
and again, as I said, it's our money jumping up in the steel band.
And even more clear an example, the Piarco cases. I mean, those had been before the courts for 18 years. So 18 years taxpayers were funding these matters. You had legal fees just racking up ridiculously. I mean, I don't think we as yet have gotten a full accounting or tally over the years and over different administrations as to the actual cost to taxpayers of those Piarco cases. You know, I mean, of course, now we have seen a judgment in the U.S. We have to hope that the government can recover some of the money. We saw the first, attempt to quash the judgment by Mrs. Quaitong and Mr. Ferguson. We saw that was denied recently by the court in Miami, but of course they then can move on to a further appeal. So again, that saga continues, and more legal fees are going to be spent before Trinidad and Tobago even gets back a cent, if we do ever get back a cent at all.
You know, what's interesting is that recently at the crime symposium, the regional crime symposium held at Hyatt, I can't recall if it's Gonzalez from St. Vincent, Prime Minister Gonzalez from St. Vincent, or if it was Mia Motley from Barbados. But someone made a statement that was very profound. They suggested that delay tactics, delay is now the new line of defense. And the longer you delay, you know, memories get cloudy, files go missing, people migrate, people forget the facts. You know, the reality is the longer you take, the chances remain it will be on the defense side. The defense will be looking a little favorable to win the case, and they'll come out smelling like a rose. And it seems that's where we're at. And that's an unfortunate circumstance.
One of the suggestions I have made, Jason, and I mean, I think you and I have discussed it previously, is for these high-profile cases, you set aside a designated court and a designated magistrate to deal with it. You set aside fixed timelines, and you say, listen, okay, in the month of July, from the 1st to the 15th of July, we are dealing with this matter from day to day. Be ready. Whether you are ready or not, we are going to proceed with the matter. That's the only way we are going to avoid these, you know, incessant delays. And, you know, I mean, look, you saw even recently with the Vincent Nelson matter, there was another request by the DPP's office for additional time. So, you know, I mean, it goes both ways, because sometimes the state is not ready. And of course, the defense attorneys take advantage of that. And then, of course, sometimes when the state is ready, the defense attorneys may file a new application, a new motion. They may file an application for judicial review. They may file an appeal, you know. So, yes, of course, and I mean, these things are within the purview of the legal system, and they are available as options, but we need to ensure that we have a way of expediting the hearings, so that way you can now continue with the matter and bring it to a conclusion.
Well, let me ask you.
That has been our biggest challenge.
Let me ask you, to build confidence in the judicial system, based on your suggestion there, to me, it's a win-win if we go about it in that particular time frame, that kind of manner. Whose responsibility, which agency, who is the personality that could make what you just mentioned a reality? If we really put
first of all, the response.
If we were to literally say, listen, let's try to make it happen, as you rightfully said. We fast-track these cases, special court assigned. Who can make this happen?
It would be with the judiciary. And, you know, I mean, the point is the judiciary has started to try to implement things. You have the criminal proceedings rules, which has had a good effect in terms of trying to, you know, accelerate the pace of doing matters. But I think they need to go further and start to appoint these special courts. We also need to look even at the normal magistrates court system, Jason. When you have a magistrate sitting on a morning with a list of maybe, you know, 75 or 100 matters, there's no way you can even begin to contemplate doing all of those in one day. Why do we have these lists with all these matters? So in other words, you ought to have basically two sets of systems in the magistracy. And I've suggested this before. You have a cadre of magistrates who will be the trial magistrates. So maybe if you say you have 15 or 20 of them, and on every given day, they are to proceed with trials. So in other words, you have a fixed date and time for your matter, and it is going on regardless. So in other words, the way that we have, brought the civil jurisdiction to heel, okay, because prior to the implementation of the civil proceedings rules, there was the late Justice Wendell Kangaloo, Justice of Appeal Wendell Kangaloo, described as a laissez-faire approach to litigation, whereby, persons would routinely turn up and expect adjournments as a matter of course. The civil proceedings rules changed that. And as a result, by and large, the civil jurisdiction is, once a matter is fixed, you know that it is to proceed. The criminal jurisdiction, however, has not yet gotten up to speed in that regard. Now, it requires both sides to make improvements, not just defense attorneys. It also requires the state, the DPP's office, to ensure that they are also ready whenever the matters are called. So, I mean, we've heard Mr. Gaspard lament in terms of his claims of his shortages of staff and resources. And of course, we heard the replies from the Chief Justice and the Attorney General and the Prime Minister. So, I mean, he had 3 of the highest office holders in the land pushing back against his claims. But at the end of the day, one way or the other, it needs to be sorted out. Otherwise, 10 years from now, Jason, you and I will be still on this set talking about these issues ad infinitum, ad nauseum.
Yeah, Martin, as always, thanks for the counsel, putting it into perspective. And I hope 10 years from now, when we talk, it will be not about the same issue. That, to me, will be so sad. I hope that we would make leaps and bounds from now to that particular moment. Martin, as always, pleasure seeing you, and we will touch base soon.
Thank you very much, and a good morning to you.
Good morning to you indeed. I want to stay within the legal framework with a judgment that came out of Guyana concerning ramps logistics. The details of that up next. See you soon.